Welcome to Spill the Tea with Josephine. Today we're talking to author Virginia Bennett. She writes cozy mysteries with a culinary twist. Welcome to Spill the Tea with Josephine, and today we have Jessica, who writes under the pen name Virginia Bennett. Can you tell me a little bit about why you chose a pen name and that one in particular?
Sure. Thank you for having me. I chose the pen name Virginia K. Bennett because it is made up of three of my grandmother's names. Virginia was my maternal grandmother, Virginia Cantera, and then Gilly Bennett is my father's mother, and Kay was for my stepmother's mother, which is Barbara Keenan. And
Cool.
just three wonderfully strong women in my life, and they've all passed away now, and I just thought it was a neat way to honor them.
Which is great too, because
Yeah,
it's lovely that you get to do that. That's nice.
yeah.
So what types of books do you write, Jessica?
So I write quick, cozy mysteries.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, so they're all right around 22,000 words.
Hmm.
And in the cozy mystery genre, there's two different series, and one is set in Maine and one is set in New Hampshire.
And why don't you tell us a little bit about your main characters from each of these?
Sure. So the main character for my Newfound Lake series is Rebecca, and she is of a similar age to myself, early to mid 40s. And she is a librarian who grew up on Newfound Lake and decided to come back as an adult. And she is a librarian by choice and ended up becoming an amateur sleuth by accident.
Because that's usually the way it is with cozy mysteries, isn't it?
Yeah, it usually is. It was not something she planned on happening, but at the same time, she reads a lot of thrillers and listens to podcasts, and so it was already sort of in her blood.
So that's how she has her, so to speak, expertise in the area.
Right. And then a very close friend of hers is the chief of police.
Hmm.
And they were friends from high school and are still friends. And over the course of the series, develop a relationship as well as sort of the subplot.
The slow burn in the background.
Yes.
So do these have like a paranormal element, or are they just strict contemporary ones?
So strictly contemporary, librarian, and culinary. So they're all taking place either in restaurants, food related events. She cooks a lot.
Oh, nice.
So at the end of every book, there's always a recipe of something that happened in the story.
Which is the nice little bonus.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what about your other series?
The other series is set in Maine, and it is also a woman sort of the same age. And she's single and inherited a property in the Perkins Cove, a Gunkwit, Marginal Way sort of area of southern coastal Maine. And her grandmother had passed away, so she got the house. And because she got the house, she was able to open a bakery. So she doesn't have the mortgage, so she's able to open the business that she's always wanted. And so she opens a bakery, and in the process of opening the bakery, sort of gains an assistant who's a gentleman who's widowed. He's in his 70s. He's a former general in the military.
Okay.
And he needs something to do, and she needs someone to help. And so they end up as kind of this unlikely pair running the bakery. And she also happens to become an amateur sleuth, not on purpose.
So how many books have you written in these series?
So the series that's set in Maine, Cozy Cove, Mysteries of Cozy Cove, there are 6 books in that series.
Mhm.
And it was designed to be the books that I released before I released the Newfound Lake series. I knew that the Newfound Lake series was really the one that meant the most to me. And I wanted to make sure that I had already sort of figured out the system, worked out some kinks before I released the Newfound Lake series. Because Newfound Lake is a real lake in New Hampshire, and it
Mhm.
is really the lake that I grew up going to and living around for my childhood. I went to Newfound Regional High School. So it's my baby. It's where I'm really actually from, and it takes place in real locations. So I've renamed a lot of the places, but all of the locals know what they are. They can, play on words. Um, and so it's just a lot of fun. And that series, I just finished last night, the 12th book.
The 12th book. Wow. Do you intend to do more there, or are you starting another series?
I was only going to do 12. The plan was to do one per month. So each book takes place in a different month. So I started the book series in June. So there's a June release, a July release for each month, and each book takes place either in a real location or doing something that really exists. So
Hmm.
the New Hampshire Marathon, there's a wedding venue that's on Newfound Lake. So there's a wedding in one of the books. There's real events that they're set around. So every book was designed to take place in a different month and be a place that people would recognize if they had ever either vacationed or lived around Newfound.
That's really cool. I like that.
I'm,
So, what
I don't
inspired you
think
to
I'm
do
done.
that?
Um, Weird series of events. Right before COVID, I picked up doing proofreading and editing for other authors. I had some coworkers at the school that I work at, and we were all doing sort of a reading challenge, how many words we could all read in a year. And I started reading a whole bunch of romance. And there were several authors that I started actually conversing with and working with, doing editing and proofreading.
Hmm.
And so I did that for a few years and then came across Cozy Mysteries. And I was like, I think I could do that. I know I can't write romance, but I think I could write a cozy mystery because it's very much left brain planning, plotting. It's all the stuff that I do as a math teacher. So it was just a really weird series of events that got me there.
Transferable skills. Yeah,
Yes.
that's cool. All right. So, have you ever wanted to be a writer before, or this was just
No,
new?
No, I was I mean, all the way through, I always knew math was my thing. I knew I was good at math. I was in, like seventh grade the first time I said, "Oh, I'm going to be a math teacher someday." And that's it. I applied to college to be a math teacher, one college. I knew where I was going. I knew that's what I would be. I wanted to teach seventh and eighth grade. That's what I teach for 23 years now. And the writing thing just happened out of nowhere. I was very caught off guard that I started doing this.
So, I take it you're probably a plotter then.
No,
No, you're a pantser.
oh, I'm very, very minimally a plotter. I will decide who's going to die, how they're going to die. Um, Usually I will figure out like what's the thing that makes it newfound? What's the thing that is like in the right month, or it's in the right location? So I will do a couple of those main details
Hmm.
and then I just wing it. And like I was in chapter 9 before I figured out how I was gonna like reveal the killer of the last book. And I only write 10 chapters. So it was
Right to the very end.
yeah, and when I got to chapter 9, I was like, hey, that's a good person to figure. That's a great idea, Jessica. Nice job.
So,
Didn't plan that.
so your chapters, you said you write around 27,000 words or something like that, right, per book. So your chapters would be around
22.
2,200, 2,700.
So it's about 2,200, 22,000 words. So I'm between 2,000 and 2,500 per chapter. I aim to make 2,000 the minimum, but sort of wing it in general. If it's going to be longer and it needs to be a little bit longer, I've had some that are 2,600, 2,700, but it just, it's not even that I set it up to be a system, but it's just the way they all turn out. So I figure it's just got to be something internal.
It's just something that works out for you.
Yeah,
Hey, if it works, don't change it, right?
right.
So, now, how long does it take you to write a book?
10 days.
Really?
Yeah.
That quickly?
Well, so
Good
I'll
for you.
usually, yeah, I'm just really pig-headed. I will kind of decide on those detail pieces, the little bit that I'll plot. I'll do that for like a day or two casually and just sort of like jot things down here and there, or I'll say it to somebody out loud and be like, oh, I think I'm going to do this, or I think it'll be this person. And then once I sit down, I do one chapter a night and I just don't go to bed until that chapter's done.
Oh,
So
wow.
sometimes it's an hour and a half, 2 hours, and I'm like, boom, done. and other nights it's like 4 or 5 hours. And I'm like, okay, I have to get to 2,000 words. But yeah, I can do it in about 10. But if, stuff will come up where I just won't write for a night because something else is in its place. But I can write it in about 10 days. And then I need one night to go through and do a whole round of edits where I will listen to the whole book read to me as I'm reading it on the screen.
Which is a really great way of editing. I mean, you
Well, it's
find things when you listen that your eyes will skip over. Absolutely.
well, if you're editing your own work, it's
Hmm.
even worse. So
Yes.
I'll do that for one night and then I'll send it to a formatter and let them format it for the paperback. And
Hmm.
then I'll take the paperback formatted version, on the computer and I'll do it again. So I'll listen to it while I'm reading it as if I were reading the pages on paperback, looking for any um, weird spacing or, if a character didn't show up correctly. We had one that was really weird where, I got a certain set of characters in a row and it did something to like the paragraph formatting just to
Oh,
catch, weird stuff that's going to look funny in the paperback that might not look that way in the digital. And then after I send back the mistakes I catch the second time, then it's done. So start to finish, you're usually talking 15 days, but the actual writing is about 10.
hmm. So, how long have you been writing?
I started writing the first book of the Newfound series in October of 2022, and I finished it. It probably took me a month or a month and a half, um, just sort of figure it out because I'd never done it before. And I said, okay, that's the first book that's going to release in June. Now I need to write all the ones that are going to release before that. And so the first book that I actually wrote and released was near the end of January of 2023. And from January to December, 13 books and a short story in an anthology in the first year.
Wow. That's pretty prolific. But yeah.
That's pig-headed. I am very Virgo type A.
The stubborn streak is coming out. You're gonna do it. You're gonna do it, right?
I'm an only child. Like we can just tick the boxes.
So, are you self-published or are you traditionally published?
No, self-published.
Hmm.
Um, it was an adventure. If it was a total flop and I didn't see it going anywhere, then I could just stop. I didn't have to worry about answering to someone or, if I had a month that went bad and I didn't meet a deadline, it was only my deadline.
Yeah.
So I would love to be traditionally published and do the same thing that I'm doing, one a month or, maybe even more than that if I could do it full time. But if it never happens, that's okay too.
So, and then are you just with Amazon or are you wide across the platforms?
Just with Amazon right now, I do want to get the paperbacks out with like Ingram Spark or something
Mhm.
else. Um, the series that's set in Maine, I want to be able to go to the shops that the book is actually like visits and the towns that it actually takes place in and say like, hey, do you want to be able to stock this on your shelves? It's set here. Like that restaurant next door is the
Is
one that
in the
the
book.
bakery's based on. Yeah. So we'll see. I don't know if it'll happen this year. It's a busy year.
That would be really cool if you did.
It would be.
Yeah. So are you in Kindle Unlimited for the readers or no?
Absolutely. Yes.
Awesome.
And then now that I'll release the 12th book probably within the next week. And then go back and put the 3 summer books as a set in Kindle Unlimited. They're in Kindle Unlimited anyway.
Hmm.
But I want to put the 3 summer books in a set and then the 3 fall books, the 3 winter books, the 3 spring books, so that it's a little easier.
Yeah, so you're talking like a box set for the
Yeah.
readers. Yeah. So that would be good. So what's your favorite thing about being an author?
Ooh. Um,
I know that's always the hardest one to to answer.
You know what? Actually, it's probably that I teach middle school and my students all know that I do this. There's nothing
Mhm.
in it that they can't read. I wrote it knowing that my 97-year-old grandmother would be reading them and that my own son who's 11 could read them. And so I'm not worried about several of my students have like bought my books, have read them, have come and talked to me. And I think the coolest thing about it is knowing that I have students that see their math teacher is a published author
Mm-hmm.
and that they could do it too. Like they didn't have to be, it doesn't have to be their only identity. Like it doesn't have to be the only thing they do. Like if they can't be an author, then, they've got to go get a real job and being an author is out of touch. Like I have a real job and I get to be an author on top of it. And the kids think it's really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Get to model that to them. Yeah.
Oh, they get to help with like the titles, the blurb on the back. I'm like, guys, I need a word.
I'm sure they all have input too.
They do. Oh, they're great about it. They're so great about it. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. And so what do you think would be the worst thing for being an author for you?
Hmm. Not having enough time. I wish I had more time to do it and to write during the day. When I write during the day, I can do a chapter in like an hour and a half and it just flows and it's really easy. But when I've taught all day and then I come home, I have my own son, I cook, I do all the household stuff, and then I can
Mhm.
start writing around 9. It takes so much longer to write at night. So it would be really nice to have more time. That's probably the toughest part.
And if you had any advice for new authors, what would it be?
Find other people who have already done it and learn from their mistakes. Like talk to as many other authors as you can um, before putting it out there and getting discouraged, because it's really easy to get discouraged. Um, to talk to other authors that have already done it.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have like a routine that you do when you set up your writing or, special spot or anything like that? Or is it just, have at her?
So most of the time it's probably the couch with a blanket and a cat or two. Um, but I do also have a treadmill in the spare room and I have a board. I'm sure this is a safety issue. I have a board set across the handles. Like there's handles you're supposed to hold on to. And I have a board set across it with my laptop and I write while I'm walking on the treadmill.
Oh, wow, that's talent. That's coordination.
Well, but it's way more productive because I'm doing something. Like my body is like my body's doing something. And so when I'm writing, I'm not thinking about all of the other things in the house that I should be doing. Like, oh, I should go switch the laundry, or I should put the dishes in, or I should go start, cleaning a room or something. Because my legs are doing something, I'm only thinking about the writing. So it tends to go a little faster.
Less interruptions that way.
Yeah. I can shut the door.
Yes, that is the biggest one. Shutting the door.
Shut the door. You can't shut the door on the living room, but I can shut the door on the room with the treadmill.
So, is there anything else that you wanted to talk to us about being an author or about your books in general or anything like that?
I'm really proud of the Newfound series. I love it. And it's a real place that people could really go and visit. And I love when people that have been to the area write to me on like Facebook and Instagram. And there are people that recognize the locations.
Hmm.
It's really fun. I've had people that write to me and go, "Oh, I work there. I work there. I know what you're talking about. You didn't call it what it is, but I know I work there." Or we always eat there in the summer. And I wrote my stepsister into the books. She runs a restaurant in town that my grandmother owned at one point. And so she's a character in the books, whether she wanted to be or not. I haven't killed her off. Like she gets to live through the whole series. Um, my stepmother's in a couple or a character based on my stepmother. So I've had a lot of fun with it being, based on real places.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you find that your characters sometimes take over your script?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I will get to the end of a chapter and be like, wow, that was really creative. I'm really glad he did that because I didn't see that coming.
So, what do you do when you get stuck?
Sometimes I'll just write a different chapter. When I talk to my husband about it, I just say, there has to be a purpose for every chapter. What is the chapter going to do to move the story along? So either you're going to discover a piece of evidence, or you're going to eliminate a suspect, or you're going to introduce all of the suspects. Every chapter has to have a reason to be there. It can't just be fluff. And so sometimes I'll start writing a chapter and think, I want to talk about this suspect. And then I'm like, well, I can't figure out why or what's the context for that suspect. And so I'll just go to the next chapter and start writing about whoever I know is the next suspect to talk about, and then go back. Because I can change the order of them pretty easily. A lot of times the middle chapters I have the hardest time with, but they don't have to go in a specific order. So sometimes I
True.
can switch the chapters around in the middle.
Angle them around a little bit. Yeah.
1, 2, 9, and 10 are pretty specific, but the ones in the middle can wiggle a little.
That rhymed. That's cute. I like that.
I do that on purpose.
We now have a new author phrase. The ones in the middle can wiggle a little. I
There you
like it.
go.
I like that a lot.
It's
Well
okay.
done.
You're welcome to trademark it.
Um, oh, let me think. So, I think we've covered a lot over this. I thought I had a question, but I got distracted there. ADHD brain just ran away from me.
It's okay. I'm not, yeah. I guess, probably the only other thing is that my titles and my covers are like
Mm.
the most important part of it. Like I'll write the whole thing and I'll start realizing I'm near the end and I'm like, well, I have to have a title, I have to have a cover. And I have a very, very patient cover artist who I'll write, a couple sentences and be like, does this make sense? Can we do this? And, she'll put something together and I'm like, ooh, can we get rid of the pink and make it purple? Or, like weird, in my
Hmm.
head, it was going to look a certain way, but I definitely didn't say all the words to
Yep.
help her. And so I'll look at the first thing and be like, okay, can we move this, this, and this, or whatever it is. So after I got through the first couple books and they were named after locations, the rest of them I started naming after the foods
Hmm.
that were in the book. So I've got Now You Sesame, Now You Don't. And it's a book about a magician, but then all of the recipes in it have to do with sesame.
Oh, cool.
And Maple Fool's Day is about Easter and April Fool's Day, but it's all about maple syrup and maple sugaring. So I like playing around with the titles. That's a lot of fun.
Do you write your blurbs before or after, like the blurbs for the
Oh,
back of the book?
I write them after, and I write it like the day I have to turn it in to the cover designer. I would rather write the whole 22,000 words than that last 150.
Really?
Oh, it's just awful. And I've never met an author that enjoys writing the blurb.
I think I've got mine down to a science.
Oh, hate it. I mean, I'm
I
getting
always
better.
write my blurb before I even start the book.
Oh my gosh, how do you do that?
I'm like, the blurb is my, so and so has this problem. This extra problem creeps up. How is she going to fix it? Question mark. And then I base my entire book off of that blurb.
Oh my goodness.
It's weird.
No. I could,
I
well,
think I'm
see,
backwards.
but I don't plot mine so that I can't know for sure how it's going to end. So I don't know how to make sure the blurb is the right setup.
Yeah, I just kind of go, okay, I'll include like three things that are going wrong in her life. The first paragraph's introducing her, what she is about. Second paragraph, this all went wrong because we know we're gonna have a body, we know we're gonna have an event, and then the third one is the question, how's she gonna fix it? Nobody
Yeah.
knows. I don't know at that point.
Yeah, I have to write the blurb tomorrow and I'm just
Oh,
not
yeah, so
looking
many
forward
people
to it.
complain about it. I'm like, I think I've got this backwards.
No, I mean, if you can, like that's awesome. I'm envious.
Now,
No
when it comes to my romance, not the same.
problem.
Cozy
That's okay.
mystery, yes. Romance, no. No. The blurb doesn't want to always write itself there.
It doesn't always agree with you. It's not
Yeah.
always playing nicely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things. So, I was gonna say, do you have any special equipment that you use?
Nope.
Like just a regular laptop? Any specific software that you like?
Nope. Because I send it off, I haven't taught myself how to format yet. And that was sort of on my list of like, once I figured out how to write books and get them out there, I'll teach myself how to format. And I have not gotten there yet. I think that my biggest hiccup is that I've released all of my books on digital and paperback, and my paperbacks actually sell more than my digital, which from what
really?
I've heard is completely backward from everyone else.
Yeah.
But because I think it's because they're based on real places. And so people give them as gifts, and
Yeah.
people have told me, like for the Newfound series, I've had people say, oh, I buy everyone that comes out and I leave it in the cabin that I rent. So they're in,
Oh,
yeah. So like it's in
that's
their
nice. I
they're
like
like their
that idea.
VRBO or their Airbnb. When they rent out their place, like my cozy mysteries are sitting on the end table because that's where they're set. So I've always done well with the paperbacks, and the paperback is the part that scares me, to get the formatting wrong. I think I would wing it if I was just doing digital. And I'm going to try to get creative this summer and see if I can continue doing the Newfound series, one book a month, and then every now and then throw in another book in a new series that I'm going to try to balance between the two. And just do digital on that one and see if I can teach myself how to format it.
So, for your marketing, do you take care of that yourself? Do you have somebody help you? What's your strategy?
I don't market well. That's my strategy. I use Facebook and Instagram. I tried TikTok. I didn't find any sort of results for Cozy Mysteries having a real life there. And I'm sure that was me because I'm just not very good at it. But Instagram and Facebook, and then just word of mouth because they are regional, that they've, kind of gotten legs from that. So I haven't spent any money on any form of marketing yet. And I told myself I wouldn't for the first year, that I wouldn't spend money on anything I didn't need to spend money on.
Which is a good strategy.
Yeah. I mean, from editing and proofreading other people's work, I've just seen people throw money away on so many different aspects, that I didn't want to fall into that. And if it didn't work out, then it just didn't work out. And I didn't want to be, in the whole thousands of dollars. Like I've seen it happen to so many people. Their family will buy the first 11 books and they never sell another one, and they paid thousands of dollars for editing. So I didn't want to spend money, and now I'm just scared to spend money.
So, do you have like a newsletter that people can sign up for, or no, not
I
even that?
haven't. I haven't. And
No.
and I know I need to, but with teaching full time and having an 11-year-old son, it just didn't happen. And the books are there. They're not going anywhere. That, if they've made money, I'm in the black. I'm not, you know, I'm not I'm not relying on that as my main source of income. So for right now, they're there. They will continue to be there. And should I get around to finding somebody that can do the marketing aspect, that would be wonderful. I'm not in any rush because I still have to teach full time.
Well, we're going to put the links to your website and your books in the lovely description here. So if anybody's interested in checking them out, by all means, please do. And, maybe next time you have another book come out or so, we can have you again and chit chat about it. And
Would love to.
yeah, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your time with us. And it was very fun and interesting.
Thank you so much.